tomorrow from 9 to 12. Let's keep it going on the phones here. We have Attorney General Leevin Camacho. We'll bring him on to discuss something that one of our favorite subjects, the high-intensity drug trafficking area designation for the island of Guam. And I think this is pretty cool. You've also jumped on with the CNMI's Attorney General and kind of making this a team thing and trying to get that HITA. Is it HITA or HITA?
Ask the AG.
Yeah, there you go. So it's HITA.
HITA.
Yes.
HITA. And AG, so I guess we'll just start at the beginning. How did you end up on a tandem letter with the CNMI Attorney General on this HITA issue?
Well, so Chris, I know you've been following this for a while now,
right?
Maybe a little bit over a year. And I guess just to explain with the HITA program, there are regions, and then they have partners within the regions. So, you can either, when you apply to become a part of HITA, you can either ask to be designated as an entirely brand new program or region, or you can ask to join an existing region. So this is the first time, as you mentioned, that we have kind of worked with the NMI, and we are petitioning to join an existing region, which is the Hawaii HITA program. There had been no new HITA region, brand new one, in 17 years until Alaska was admitted last year, or 2018. So the last approach was to try to get Guam designated on its own as a HITA region, and that was not successful. So we figured the best thing to do would be, Hawaii HITA has been around since 2004, and we know that the drug problems that we have here in Guam is also the same that they have in the NMI, and Hawaii actually too. ICE is still the biggest drug there, so we figured it would be best to have a Pacific approach to drug interdiction.
Not really familiar with the ICE goings on in the CNMI, but when you say they're having a similar time of it, you're talking about like arrests and bus and stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the importation of drugs, so they actually, because they have a visa waiver with China, they are worried about importation of drugs from China, I guess before the COVID-19 thing started. And then there are also interceptions from Guam that they're sending it either via boat or via mail. Actually, the Postal Service is still the biggest way that drugs are getting in. I just saw a story in today's news about 9 pounds of meth being seized in the last 7 weeks through the mail.
Good job, get them.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's unfortunate we don't know how much is still getting through. We know the drug prices have dropped significantly, right. But anything that we can do to give our law enforcement more resources, more intelligence to kind of stop the drugs before they're coming in and to catch the guys who are doing it is going to be good for us.
AG, for the HITA designation, there's several criteria that include the area must be a significant center of illegal drug production, manufacturing, importation, distribution. Local law enforcement agencies have committed resources to respond to the drug trafficking problem, which indicates that there's a determination to respond aggressively. Drug-related activities have a significant harmful impact in the area and other areas, and a significant increase in federal resources is necessary to respond adequately. Now, knowing that's the criteria, I just have a hard time believing that they rejected our application. Can you kind of go into maybe what you can tell us about their thought process in rejecting?
I don't really know. I know that the letter was pretty general, but I think it has something to do, Chris, with the fact that we tried to become a region on our own instead of joining an existing region. And as I mentioned, it's very difficult. And the state of Alaska is the first place to be admitted as a new region. So that's why we didn't think it would be successful if we try to go this on our own. And the Office of National Drug Control Policy is the program or the agency that oversees this. And on the application page, it'll say most places are just trying to join existing regions. So that may have been a factor, that we weren't trying to join another region. We were trying to go it alone.
So how does this work if we do get approved under Hawaii? How much money would Guam get? What sort of resources we get, and how is it split up within the region?
So, and I think that Sabrina might be the real reason why we it's all about resources and we want to get as much as we can. But at this point, it was $500 is more than we're getting currently for if we can get additional $500 more. But I think when we talk about resources, we have to think a little bit bigger. So we talk about intelligence, and now I'm learning a little bit about like the port as an example. That if you are in the States, in the typical customs jurisdiction, you have to send your manifest ahead of time so they know what's going to be on your boat. On Guam, we can do it after the fact. So there are boats that come in, we don't know what's on them, and then 3 days later they say, okay, here's all this cargo, and we haven't had an opportunity to potentially vet that. So with HIDA, we may be able to access federal law enforcement information, so we're able to properly vet where these containers are coming from, who's sending them, and potentially identify bad actors before they get here, so that our law enforcement can do a deeper dive in trying to intercept drugs that are coming in that way.
And is that kind of, AG, where you guys think a lot of meth is coming in? Because I had interviewed the customs chief, I think that was last year, and he had straight up, he was like, oh, it's coming in through the port.
You know, I think that's a real weakness we have to assess. I know the airport customs is doing a great job. The canine unit, I know that they've added 2 more canines, but they're just Hawaii. So a year ago, I was in Hawaii, and I actually went and I met with the Hawaii HIDA Executive Director Gary Yabuda, and he's been very helpful throughout this process. And I'd say that's another key difference here, not only with the NMI, but getting Hawaii's full support and advice and guidance through this whole process. And you know, he talked about that they don't have enough dogs in Hawaii to patrol the airport, or to patrol the seaport. So you have to be targeted, but you also have to have a show of force and do things a little bit differently. So
yeah. So on our end,
the designation. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, AG. On our end, it says here that there has to be an indication. There's a determination to respond to drug trafficking problems aggressively. Do you think that on the Guam Police Department side that and I'm going to try and get through this without mentioning Mandania, but, you know, do we need to kind of show the federal government that, yeah, we're taking this seriously, we have, you know, a task force or anything like that, just to kind of show the feds that we're trying? Because as it stands now, I mean, the only real, there's been a couple, but it just kind of seems like we're just catching people when we pull them over. So I'm just wondering, like, on paper, do we have to show the feds that, yeah, we're doing this?
Because with Mandania, it was not just GPD, it was customs. I think there was even some federal agencies involved, but now Mandania is no longer Mandania, it's just GPD. And you mentioned something earlier about federal resources, and are we not seeing this partnership with the feds in fighting drugs on Guam?
No, there's we do partner up with our federal law enforcement, and there are existing task forces that are dedicated to drug interdiction. But this will formalize it, and it'll give us access. You know, there's millions of dollars that are managed by the HIDA program specifically, in addition to the resources that we're currently getting. So, you know, Coast Guard, HSI, DEA, U.S. Postal Services. So that we have good working relationships with our federal partners, but this is just going to be kind of, we're leveling up, so to speak, those relationships.
Right. AG, so, you know, and I don't know if you think this is relevant, but with the compact impact funding, when we get this huge chunk, it ends up like Hawaii takes most of it, and then we get, you know, a small amount. So I'm just thinking and unpacking what you had said, where Hawaii is a HIDA designated area, but you just said they don't have enough dogs. So I'm just wondering, if we get folded in with them, are we just going to be getting kind of like the scraps of the deal, or is there any way to ensure that we're equal partners in it?
You know, I can tell you that the executive, again, Gary Yabuda, has been very excited, and he's already kind of, I'll give you an example. You know, we filed a lawsuit last year about opioid manufacturing, and we're collecting data to get a glimpse of our opioid problem. You know, we found out that we're averaging at least 1 overdose death per year, and they're having to treat overdoses regularly at GMH, right? So opioids, they're going to potentially look at ways outside of HIDA with other federal programs to get additional resources to Guam to help with our opioid problem and to help build better stats. Hawaii also is going to be looking at helping with our victim services center. So that there's going to be enough money to go around that we're going to improve our services. And again, it's just any additional resources we can bring to the islands for drug interdiction, for victim services, is going to be welcome in my mind.
Right. What's the timeline on the request now that we've put it in? When do you anticipate a response?
It's a rolling admission. So you know, we're going to be reaching out to some of our local leaders and our federal law enforcement people here to get letters of support, just to supplement the petition that we filed. And you know, once we get back any word, obviously we'll let you guys know.
Was this something that you had to reach out to Hawaii and say, hey, is it all right that, you know, if we join under your region?
Yeah, I mean, there had to be a little bit of bridge building, to be honest, with them. I mean, without getting into the details, but it was good that we, you know, through someone who moved to Hawaii, they were able to put me in touch with Gary Yabuda, and then we kind of started talking about how we could do this the right way and get it done. You know, at the end of the day, your petition. Right now, we just have a piece of paper, and until we get those resources. But the relationships really matter, and I can say that with the NMI. I've been in very close contact with General Manabusan, and we're trying to figure out how, from human trafficking to opioids to drug interdiction, on how we can work with the NMI and have a more unified Marianas approach to the problems that are similar.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Kind of nearing maybe the halfway point of your term here, and I just want to ask with this HITA thing. Now that you've kind of been in the office and got comfortable and had a look at the lay of the land.
I don't know if I would say I'm comfortable.
I know. Okay. But what do you make of the meth problem on Guam? Because I mean, this is not something maybe you regularly looked at before you were AG. I mean, I don't know if you did. But so what's your take on it? How bad is it? What's your message to the dealers?
I think anytime we talk about the drug problem on Guam, it has to be the HITA and drug interdiction is one piece of the puzzle. Because HITA, if we stop the flow of drugs, that's not going to magically cure all the people who have substance abuse problems on the island. So when we talked about the treatment programs that we have here that are available, you have to have a multi-pronged approach to addressing the drug problem here. So you can't just put all your resources into stopping the flow of drugs into here and then not do anything for those who, like you mentioned, are being arrested every day with residue and pipes and that kind of stuff. So we do have to dedicate more resources to rehabilitation and to treatment and helping people with their abuse issues, but going after the big guys. I mean, we would need to stop these folks from bringing this into the island and give those who need help assistance, and that's the only way that we're going to truly tackle the problem.
Are you guys working with any of those agencies that's tasked with the responsibility of rehabilitation and recovery? Because I think there's only like two. There's the Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, and then you have the Salvation Army's Lighthouse Recovery Center.
What we're really hoping for, Sabrina, is all this litigation that we're part of. We want to make sure that any proceeds from settlement or cases that we get are going to be put back into dealing with abuse issues. So if it's opioid abuse, you're going to have you mentioned Guam Behavioral Health. They need more money. They need more resources, right? So any dollar that we can get to help augment those types of services, that's what we're interested in. So we're hoping that some of that money starts coming back soon, and we can start putting it into those types of areas.
Is this the first time that you guys have joined forces with the CNMI?
That's my understanding. This is actually the first time we've done it at this level, and then not only with the CNMI but Hawaii, that we kind of are all working together. And it's we've been on calls for, as I mentioned, this has been in talks for over a year now, and we got a window to submit our application or our petition, and we worked pretty quickly with the folks in Hawaii and the NMI. General Manabusan and his team have been really great and gracious throughout all this. We had to rework our petition a bit, but we'll provide you guys a copy. I mean, you look at, as an example, the residential drug treatment program at DOC. They only have space for 19 inmates, and there's like 100 people that are eligible for it that are waiting to get in. So,
Well, I like that you guys are working with the CNMI Attorney General, and it sounds like you're not just doing it for piggy and blueberry cream cheese.
I sent him some Nancy drizzle because he's always sending stuff here. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to plug. I didn't mention where I bought it from. But he always asked for Tabasco when I would see him out. So I said, I got something better than Tabasco that I'll give you. So.
We got some more Tabasco. Well, AG, thanks for calling in. This is a subject. I mean, I followed it a long time. We got a major problem when the price of a gram of ice is, I mean, God, it's almost cheaper than weed. You know what I mean? It's flooded. It's crazy. So thanks. And if you could, just keep us posted on this.
Absolutely, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Wash your hands, AG.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I will.
All right. 8:18. Good morning on you. We're going to take a really short break, and then we've got, I'm going to get Dave Delasola from Department of Labor to come on and give an interview here as the various satellite centers for processing the PUA and FPUC applications have been open since Monday. So we want to kind of catch up with him and find out where we are at in all of that. It's 8:17. Again, it's the K-Wave News Takeover, Guam's favorite.